Hello, everybody. Okay, so we're gonna speak about the separation of concerns in, well, technique is about to succeed that in JavaScript by doing, nice syntax and whatever. And it doesn't kill so much. Yeah, I'm from Alcoy, pretty much Alicante. I was former PHP and Java developer. And I'm working with JavaScript since 2015, yeah. And live in Barcelona for 6 months, whatever, yeah. Working in Qmenta, which is a startup. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and GitHub. Also, again, this is the first speaker. He introduced himself, but he forgot to actually tell the GitHub handle, so you can follow him. Okay, so yeah. What the fuck? Yeah. Okay, so let's start. Okay, in this talk we are going to see a pretty much very easy example of application, and this application is using React. So in the example, this application will grow while the talk, so you can see simple examples about when your code is about to get repeated in some places and how you can achieve to deal with that code which repeats and don't repeat himself in the other in every concern of the application. So we are going. I hope you guys are familiar with Decorators syntax, or you are maybe Angular developers or even TypeScript developers using React or Preact. I hope so. Well, anyway, I think the code will be explanatory enough. So if anyone has a problem, just can point me, and after the talk I can explain very well. So. Okay, let's jump to the code. I created a simple repository with React. The repository is in that direction. You can check it, and we are going to go directly to that code. So I can show you very specifically where it goes. So we are going to see. We have. I hope you guys see this very well. If not, well. Okay, so we have, I'm going to start the application directly so it's more easy. Localhost. Okay, so this is the app. It's simple. You get you have one component only which makes a call, that's all. And that component also is listening to one route. This is the first step, okay? So then the problem is I can show you the code so you can actually see what is happening in the background. You're seeing the code very well. This is the main component. So the problem is my screen is that size and okay. Well, this is the main file basically, and we have the user component. We only have that, okay? So here you will see that there is, okay, this is the actual call, the access call, and this is basically we see the state, etc., but it's not the concern right there, okay? So the problem is what the fuck? The business right now asks us for to make another component, which basically we have right now a list of users, and business asks for make another component which performs a call to actually retrieve a list of articles for every user, okay? So we are going to jump on that because I already have the tagged all the commits on the repository. So we can go directly. This is V1, okay. So right now we have two components actually, and I can show you the post. I can show you directly where it's working. Right now we have, instead of a list, we have links, okay? So every time that we go to this URL, you are seeing this fine or not? Okay, basically the route contains the user ID, okay? And you can see the you can see this, which is we're making that calls, and we're making the post users, okay? Basically, we are getting that. So the thing is, right now, if we go to the code, we basically have this kind of code, this piece of code. It's basically repeated over those components, okay? Basically, I mean, you guys are familiar with Axios syntax. Basically, we are making a request to that direction, and also we are in the users component, which is here. We are making the same, pretty much the same code. We are not using parameters because we are only retrieving the users list, but we also have to handle the asynchronous context, etc. Okay, pretty nice. We are going to use a technique to get rid of that duplicate code right now. Okay, so I have first of all I have to get another time of the slides, but will be the last time I'm gonna use the slides. Okay, so basically, OP has limitations because if we want to add some behavior to another component, we have to place that piece of code. We can even encapsulate that, but we are used to do that because there is no way. We can use, for example, inheritance, but we cannot have multiple inheritance for every feature that we want to extend in our class. You know, we can, for example, make assumptions for inheritance in some cases, but it's not that easy. Okay, so we can use, for example, he-order components, and this is something very similar to that. Okay, so basically there are two types of requirements in software development, in software engineering. Basically, it's like functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Okay, so basically it's like functional requirements are basically what business needs to happen in their application, but the other part, the non-functional requirements, are what things, what kind of things have to happen, basically to that functional requirements actually work. You know, so basically we have to handle asynchronous context, we have to assign variables, we have to make code, write code basically. But there are some kind of patterns that can repeat over most of components because we don't have a way to get rid of that. So traditionally in object-oriented programming, we try to group requirements by domain. Of course, that's why we create classes. And we try to create classes and fill a particular concern, okay? To make well, I don't know the word. Single responsible principle, yeah, I forgive that word. Okay, so we can also group classes into modules. So basically that modules can fulfill some requirement, but the problem is and of course you will increase the software quality by doing that, okay? But there are some kind of requirements that are used in the whole, widely used in the board application, all components, and because you cannot get rid of that. You cannot, it's a functional concern. It's not, it's not a business concern. It's like a thing you have to do to things actually work. So you have to repeat all the old places when you need that feature to actually to be implemented on that. So basically, for example, think about logging. How many things you see in some methods, like we enter that method, we exit that method, we have these attributes, we have these arguments, the method exited with some result. Okay, you have to, if you want to see a feature about, if you need a feature about logging, you have to put the logging stuff in every method that you needed, basically. And you cannot make an inheritance of that. You cannot solve logging concerns and problems with all that code using inheritance. Also catchy, error handling, validation, persistence. There are a lot of examples. Basically everything that repeats over many places and fits a particular pattern, it can be solved by doing inversion of control. So we have a problem right now, which is basically we have two components. We have a pretty similar behavior, okay, because they are fetching some resource. Okay, so they are not quite similar because those implementations differ a little bit. For example, they are fetching different resources, and also one resource needs actually a parameter to be fetched because, okay, so it's related to one user. Okay, it's not that simple, even deal with asynchronous context, because most of the 3 or 4 years ago, there was like the main concern, like the callback pyramid of the data in JavaScript. I mean, asynchronous context is like a major concern in JavaScript. That's why we have the new feature like async await. So it's trying to get rid of all of that, you know. But okay, we're trying to solve that, but it's not even easy. Also, if you wanna like get program like an access request which is abstracted from the business concern, okay. So basically, as I said again, implementing some behavior in OP implies explicitly invoke it. So invoke behavior implies to deal with the language primitive. So every time that you are basically copying and pasting some code that is in one method to another method, to another component, you have to change variables a little bit to fit the context, change the, I mean, you know, that fit the particular call to that context, okay? So that's pretty much a loss of time, and even your code gets uglier because you don't want to read all of that code. You don't really need it. I mean, it could be a nicer way to do that, okay? So basically we have, this is what we have right now with common object-oriented programming. So basically we can wrap the call and we say, okay, we have a function, the function expects one parameter, 2 parameters, and then there is a placeholder where you place basically your, I mean, you can place a callback or even expect a promise, basically to handle that promise in your context right there. But basically you have to get that code and paste it all the time. And there is another way basically, which is you can code actually your behavior, but you can do it in a modular way, with abstraction. I mean, without saying explicitly which words will be there. Okay, so let's back to the code, and it will be as we finish. So, promise. We're going to go on that implementation right there. So basically, this is the next step. So right now in both components, in the user components and in the post components, we have basically our different components with different render methods, etc., with our own business code, which actually cares about the main concern with which we are dealing right now in that component. But in the user component, we have, for example, the call, which is actually the code that it matters right now to that context, which is the user call, okay, with the user URL, okay. And we created a decorator, which is before method, okay. So that basically we are saying before that method, this method will be called here. Whoa, sorry. This piece of code will be called here, and we are trying to say with this syntax, we are trying to say, okay, before calling that, this is like the body of the method, we are going to execute that behavior, okay? We don't care about too much what it's doing, but this is like, before that, before setting the states, what the fuck? Okay. Before setting the state, we're going to execute some kind of behavior, okay? And also in the post component, we also have the same, okay? We have the same, but there is a difference because this particular method here was called using a parameter. Basically, that parameter fits the actual Ajax call, okay? So what is this? What is the HTTP, okay? So we have another file, which is advices, okay? And if we go here, we see that piece of code. Maybe it's not understandable at the first. Don't care so much about, but basically, I can explain you. Basically, it's an access call, but every piece of functional requirement is like abstract, okay? So it's not explicitly there. It's like implicit being injected. So it's like a piece of code. Think about dependency injections. You really don't care about how you get the dependency, but it is like you need that dependency and you explicitly say that, but you don't get it You don't code actually how to get that dependency, okay? So this is like how to deal with that with abstraction. So we are creating a function that is not pure. It has to rely on some, here, the Axios instance, okay? And we make all this code which was before in the component. We have the code here, and only here is what is executed twice, but you have only the code once in one place, okay? And okay, don't care about too much about the syntax. I will explain in the next slides, okay? But it's a piece of code which is injected. Injected, for example, in this case, is before some method, okay? Okay, so right now, that's okay, it's working. I can show you. Oh, here not. Yeah. We have the same, and we change actually the brand, so it's working as the same, okay? So basically, now it's okay. We try, business asks for some improvement for some feature, like having another component, but we as a developers care about the repetition and the code readability, and so yeah, we want to keep components abstract of other behaviors the component doesn't care too much, okay? So right now, business is pretty happy, but ask for another feature, which is we need to have memoization, and post components cannot do the same call twice. So basically, they want that if you are requesting for the bread post, they don't want to make the call twice. So basically, if I do that, you see, I'm going backwards and forwards. So basically, if we go for another, every time is doing a request. So basically, they want only to call one resource once. Okay. So basically, how do you do that? Because right now, we try to abstract the layer of the Ajax. Okay. We are going to the next tag. Whoa. Yeah. Actually, we created, if you see right now, the post, for example, that behavior only, they want that only in the post stuff. Okay, so get rid of that. So right now, we have, in the before method, we actually added like two behaviors, okay, which is read and write. So basically, the component doesn't change. There is no change in the component because the component doesn't know about that, doesn't care about that, okay? But the thing is right now, in the users, we don't have that because business doesn't ask about the memoization in the users. So we simply, there is no change right there. So what is the memoization? Okay. Okay, I will show you in the code first. So basically, we are creating, right now, we are only reloading the users. So there is no following request. If we request another user first time, it gets, the request is done, but then the next time, it doesn't make again. We are storing that user, we are storing that parameters of the function, and basically the result of the call. Okay, but how to do that? I mean, anyone knows how to do that in JavaScript. The thing is like how to inject that behavior before the Ajax call, and how to wait the Ajax call to be finished and store the result of the Ajax call regarding of the parameters that enter in the function. Okay, if we go to the advice, there is like an object, but the object is like there are two functions that are wrapped into the same object, okay? And basically, the same as again, don't care too much about the implementation, I will show you then. But basically it's like, it creates a key regarding the name of the method, and then checks if that method was called with that arguments, and if it's true, it goes directly to the body of the method. And if it has to do the call because there were no store in the method, just do the call, and then when the call is finished, basically store in the local storage, saves in the local storage the result. So basically, the thing is like we have like solved that problem without messing with the component, and leaving also the Axios implementation very clean, okay? Because it's like the same behavior. Because you specify, basically it's like some kind of composition, because you specify which behavior you want, but you specify specifically in the component, but you don't mess the component with that, okay? So I will show you right now, which is basically what is the meta object, okay? So you can get very easy, but don't care too much about that. But the thing is like only impossible to read. You can access method arguments. Every time that you decorate a method, you can access. The idea is the basic idea of this is to access everything that you can access within the instance of the class, but not directly, not there. It's like you can like define abstract behaviors. For example, if you can access the methods, the instance, the name of the method, the class reference, etc., the result. If you add, for example, instead of before method, after method, or for example, you can build your own dependency injection system using before instance, for example. You can, for example, every time that this class gets instantiated, I want, for example, execute some sort of method which will be, you know, abstracted. So you can build dependency injection, for example. So getting back to the code, actually the problem, we have a problem right there, which is we need to inject actually we need basically to import advices, those kind of functions are called advices, okay? So if anyone has worked with, for example, Spring in Java, will remind about the aspect-oriented programming. This is something similar, okay? So advices are functions, but are not pure, because they rely on you have to import Axios instance, for example, or the storage instance, okay? So basically, we want to build our own dependency system to basically those kind of functions to become completely pure. So it will be easy to test it and know what is happening under the hood. So basically, we are going to go to the next step. So right now, if you see the advice file, there is no imports, okay? And right now, Axios, for example, we access that instance through this. It's like method scope is like to call the method instance, okay? So inside some method of the class, you have access to the this. So method scope is like to get access to this. And basically, this allows us to access, for example, all the method, all the instance property, etc. And also, for example, if there is a injected dependency on that component, we can access that. Okay, so advice components doesn't care about implementation, but advices doesn't care about where are the dependencies. Okay, and the behavior is also the same. We don't have any changes except of the replacing getting the right dependencies for the decorated instance. So right now we are going to check for example, the post. So if you see, we have added another decorator. Don't care too much about this one. This is about the routing. But we also have the before instance. So basically, we built our own dependency system, which is pretty handy. And basically, we are saying, okay, we have the Axios provider, and before the constructor gets executed, we are going to assign the Axios instance, the injected Axios instance, to the Axios property of the class, okay? And then we also need the storage, because the post component rely on the memoization and also the resource fulfillment, okay? But then in the users, there is no need of the storage, okay? So we only inject the Axios provider, okay? And I can show you this is working also very well. So this is pretty much the same. We're not going to make another call for that, but if we ask for another resource, we are storing that property and everything is working, okay? So the problem is like, there are a lot of decorators on that class, okay? So if you are working with a team, it's hard to rely and say, okay, you have to import that decorator, that other, and that other. We need a way to actually wrap and join all those decorators and create like an aspect, you know? It's a piece of behaviors that are applied to one class and you don't care how it's built. You can even import that, or you can even drop from project to project. I mean, those kind of implementations are completely agnostic from the business, okay? Should be agnostic from the business side. Okay, so we are going to jump in the next one. And there it is. So right now we removed all the decorators except this one. For example, the user component only have like the fetch behavior. And the fetch behavior, of course, if anyone has used TypeScript, I mean, with TypeScript will be easier to define that because you can say, for example, this class implements some interface and you have to basically to have a method which is get resource, okay? Because basically there is no warning about this method will be modified by the decorator, okay? Basically it's like that method will contain an Axios call, which is injected by this one, okay? So this is about inversion of control things, okay? And then the post, okay? The post, we have like another aspect, which is catchitfits, because we want to express like the same method which is here. We will have some sort of behavior which will catch actually requests which are already fulfilled, okay? But we don't screw up the code actually, because we are only like applying piece of code implementations. And actually, if you see the advices file, we are added those piece of codes, and basically we are like creating those kind of injecting those behaviors in those methods. Okay, so this is how it works, and this could be useful for, you know, when you have piece of code which is repeating over your application, and of course you are copying and pasting all the time, and then you enter one method, you are reading a class, and what the fuck is doing this method particularly? I don't have any idea, because you are like reading methods too huge, because there is a lot of code which is not related to that class, or it's not even related to that method. Okay. So yeah, this is the content. With TypeScript, basically we can say, for example, we can make more half an hour. Okay, that's all. Thank you so much.